Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast, where we dive into the human side of the manufacturing industry. I'm your host, Jim Mayer, and as always, I am thrilled to have you join us. Before we dive into today's exciting episode, a quick reminder to check out our website at manufacturingculturepodcast.com for more episodes and exciting content. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and even Snapchat, which I haven't quite figured out, but we're getting there. Now, folks, let's gear up for an incredible journey into the world of robotics and innovation with our special guest, Onder Ondemir. Onder is a co-founder and president of Ubiros, a groundbreaking company that's revolutionizing the way we think about robotic packaging. With their pioneering soft gripper technology, Ubiros is making it possible to handle delicate food items with the precision and care of human touch, but with the efficiency and speed of a machine. Onder's journey to the forefront of robotics innovation is as fascinating as the technology he's helping to develop. With a PhD in industrial engineering from Northeastern University and a rich background in people management from his 11 years at a major insurance company, Onder brings a unique blend of technical expertise and leadership skills to the table. It's this combination that led his co-founder, a robotics professor and good friend, to invite him to lead Ubiros and bring their vision to life. But Onder isn't just a tech-savvy entrepreneur. He's also a family man with a passion for martial arts and the performing arts. With a black belt in Judo and a history of acting and directing in theater, Onder's diverse experiences have shaped him into the dynamic leader he is today. And with a wife who's also a PhD and an engineering professor, it's clear that innovation and education run deep in the Ondimir family. So buckle up as we explore the exciting world of soft robotics, explore the challenges and triumphs of leading a startup, and discover how a Judo black belt and former actor is shaping the future of food packaging. Get ready for an inspiring conversation with Onder Ondemir right here on the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. Hello, Onder. Welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. How are you doing today, my friend?
Jim, wow. I am doing great. And what an intro. What an intro. I was doing fine today. I'm doing much better now after hearing all that stuff that you said for me. It makes one feel really good. And yeah, the judo stories and my acting and everything, you captured it really well. And I think um, all the things you said are, the things that I'm living and breathing every day.
I love it.
But when it is organized like that as an intro, it kind of hits me too. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is great. So I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting.
Yeah.
And it's an honor and pleasure to be here. Um,
Yeah.
I guess we're gonna shoot the shit a little bit over here.
Absolutely. That's literally what we do on this show. And a quick shout out to Chris Lukey for making this introduction. He had you on the manufacturing happy hour. It was a great episode that you did with Chris. But after he was done recording with you, or maybe after he had released it, I don't know the timeline specifically.
Mhm.
He reached out and said, "Hey, do you know this guy?" And I said, "No." He said, "You need to, and you need to have him on the show." So thank you, Chris, for helping me out get Onder on the show. And Onder, I'm very excited to have you here. Your journey, my friend, is wild to me, right? Somebody who goes uh, from a PhD in industrial engineering into the insurance industry and then to robotics. That's just it's a juxtaposition, right? It's not something that you usually see. So I'm interested. I know my listeners are interested. Tell us the story of Onder.
Yeah, well, interestingly, so I think that story follows me wherever I go. So when I started at Liberty Mutual, the insurance company, I'm not representing them anymore. Obviously, I'm not no longer associated with them. But when I started there as an engineer, and I told people that I was working with an insurance company, I got the same question: as an engineer? insurance company? What do you
Yeah.
do? The PNC, like auto and property insurance, like everybody has for their cars and houses. Well, the story is I am an industrial engineer at the core, and industrial engineering is, as opposed to other engineering sciences like mechanical, electrical, or many other, is
Yeah.
a lot to do with systems and a
Sure.
lot of mathematical optimization. So that's the reason why I actually took a lot of classes on management, operations, even finance, accounting, in addition to simple design. So if you ask me to design a machine, I would probably not do a good job. But if you ask me to design a system where the machines are placed and whatnot, I would do a fair job. Or optimizing
Sure.
the locations, the warehouses, logistics and whatnot. So that's the reason I was actually hired into the insurance company
Okay.
to become a modeler to optimize their staff levels across the United States at certain times in the year because demand is higher or lower. There are more accidents in certain times and whatnot. So it's a very
Sure.
dynamic life in the capacity management. So that's what I did at an insurance company. But at the core, I'm an engineer, and I tell this story a lot. When I was a little kid, I loved the TV show The Knight Rider. I don't know if you remember. It was my
Can't.
favorite thing in life. And I
Absolutely.
asked my mom, I said, Mom, who makes Kit? Like, I didn't even know how to ask the question, like, what do I need to become to make something like Kit? And then my
Okay.
mom told me, like, well, mechanical engineer. So for the longest time, I told everybody, whoever asked what I wanted to become when I got older, I said mechanical engineer. And why? Because I want to make Kit. So
Love
that
it.
was my story growing up. And then at the university, when I get to the college, I actually did not go for the mechanical engineering. I did the industrial engineering because I think I'm a better fit for that. But that always lived in me, and I wanted to make fancy machines. Um, I graduated. I did the VP role in analytics
Okay.
in an insurance company. And one day, my good friend, who's a robotics professor, came to me and said, "Hey, I have this phenomenal technology. I think it's going to be like in your words, Jim, is it going to be a groundbreaking thing in the packaging industry? But I'm a scientist. I don't like dealing with funding, the selling, the marketing, all that kind of stuff. He actually does not enjoy those things, and I am actually energized by those things. I like talking to people. I don't know if you can tell. I'm going to be able to talk like all day today. If you just don't stop me, I will. I will. For the next 3 hours, I'll be talking. Anyway, he
It's
asked
going to
me
be the longest episode of the Manufacturing Culture podcast that we've had, and I'm here for it.
I was talking. Anyway, so he asked me if I wanted to run a company so that he could stay focused on the technology innovation, the development of the product, but I could do the business piece, the systems and the people and all other things that you would do in a startup company. We're still a startup company, so we do everything, but I'm more focused on the business side, and he's focused on the development side. So that's my story. And then when he said that, I looked at the technology, I loved it, and I said, let's go. And here I am joining a podcast talking about it.
I love it. I love it. That's great. So, he had the idea for this soft gripper, right? Tell us more about the company and the technology itself, and really how does it, let's start there. Tell us more about the company and the technology itself.
Yeah, our technology is we make a soft robotic gripper. Soft robotic gripper is basically a rubber fingered thing that grabs objects with like human dexterity and care. So that's the idea. And when people thought about robotics for the longest time, those were machines like rigid metal pieces, gears, like oil and grease, right? And those things weren't necessarily finding their places in areas like food handling, farming or whatnot. Trend is there now. Robotics is everywhere. It's going into many places, but for the longest time, it was in the dirty automation, in like
Right.
automotive industries, like really trenches of the deep manufacturing. So the idea came out, and then people said, okay, we could use actual robots in other areas, healthcare,
Mhm.
medical, food, and whatnot. And people started using um, biomimicry to kind of mimic human hands and whatnot. And then they started using pneumatic actuation. So pneumatic actuation, basically they pressurize air into a
Yep.
hollow body, and then they kind of make a soft moving object. So
Right.
that's actually the state of the art in soft robotics. That's basically how soft robotics is done. You
Wow.
have air, sometimes other fluids. So my co-founder was part of the research group um, out of Harvard, actually working on this technology. And he separated from that, became a professor, and then said, I spent enough time on this one, and I know the shortcomings, the limitations of pneumatic actuation, which is harder to manipulate, harder to control. Accuracy is not there. Plus, you need compressors, the airlines, the tubes. It is just a
Yeah.
complicated system where he said we could actually do this with electrical motors. A lot more precision is there. Control is easy. All you need is electrical power. It's accessible everywhere, even on drones. There's like battery technology is out there, right? So
Yeah.
the technology basically evolved from um, soft robotics being a solely pneumatic technology into an electrical technology where we could see more accessibility.
Got
You
it.
could now put our grippers on like mobile robots, drones, in many places, or in places where you don't have air sources like farms, right?
Yeah.
So you can take a battery, but it's really hard to take a compressor. They're really inefficient. I think pneumatic is awesome. Nothing against it. It's just not the most efficient way to actually activate a gripper. So
Sure.
we said, okay, we could do this. And we also know that even existing soft gripper technology or soft robotics is not widespread yet. They're facing what is it called, the traction problems, because all those farms, the technologies, they're not traditional robotized. They're even now getting
Right.
into the idea of robotizing their industry, let alone kind of using these new technologies. So there is that
Yeah.
traction problem as well. So that's our differentiation. That's our technology, where it came from. It is we have an inherent interest in fixing a problem that we saw while dealing with the previous technologies, and we said, okay, we can solve this so that we can actually disrupt. Maybe I shouldn't say disrupt. That is not our goal to disrupt, but it's kind of disrupting what is out there. Our goal is to actually bring something really nice and good and useful to the people, and
Yeah.
see if it's going to be taken up.
I love
I
it.
hope.
I love it, Onder. And so part of I want to zero in on something that you talk about is this idea that robotics is now getting into more and more industries, right? And we've seen in manufacturing and other industries have seen this paradox, and it's called the automation or robotics slash cultural paradox, where these are industries that really need robotics, they need automation, but culturally a lot of the companies are not ready for innovation, are not set up for the kind of technology that they really need to advance into the future, right? It's a future of manufacturing, it's a future of a lot of these skilled labor type trades.
Right.
um, so how does Ubiros and the soft gripper technology help kind of bridge that gap, that paradox? And how does your technology, I mean, this entire month is about hardware and tech that is inviting cultural change, and that's why you're part of this month's journey, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how does your tech help that process and in evolving a company culture?
Right. Right. Um, there are multiple things that influence. You have the manufacturing culture podcast, and you're talking about culture with many people, and then you must have heard a lot of aspects of how culture is um, shaping up in an organization, and there are internal factors that are shaping up the culture, like leaders,
Yeah.
the coworkers, but there are external factors that I think shape up the culture, like environment,
Mm.
the desires, and obviously your upbringing and many other things. I
Yeah.
think a lot of the companies today that are not culturally ready for automation are actually becoming ready with the major two things: the economies.
Uh,
Basically, labor shortage is a big one.
yeah.
Second one is their absolute desire to produce the best thing for their customers. So um, I met with people, many people who are from farmers to manufacturers of small parts and whatnot. Nobody says that I want to create a sub quality, subpar product. Everybody wants the best one to come out of their line, right? It's just
Yeah.
nobody's like, oh, I'm gonna give the crappy thing to my customers. It's like, okay. Nobody says that, and they yeah, the crappy things sometimes get out of the production, but it's not their intention. They
Right.
try their best and they put their best foot forward, and it's going out there. Now, when you don't have the right people to do that job, now they're actually facing a huge dilemma on like, okay, I need the people to do this work because that's how traditionally they have done this. Now,
Yeah.
either I actually don't produce the quality that I need, or I actually fill that gap with something. And I think that is the major force that is kind of pushing companies into kind of filling that void with robotics. There's also obviously the efficiency goals. Like the demand is ever growing. For some reason, we're eating more and more every every year
Yeah.
beyond the population growth. So there's
Yeah.
there's an ever increasing demand. So that is shaping up. Our product fills into both areas of this. So the one dimension is, well, they need this because the labor is not there. It's a well-known problem. So they need a product, but they need a
Hmm.
product that handles their apple in such a way that like a human would handle. Like if you handle an apple with rigid metal tools, then it's gonna bruise, and then they lost their wonderful, perfect looking apple, which nobody wants, right? And there is a strong barrier into entry because of the distrust in machines being able to handle their delicate objects, because they have been doing this
Yeah.
for years and they know how delicate they are. So we need to just show them how delicate we can handle those. So there's that barrier, but that barrier also opens up avenues for us to actually showcase our new technology and how it's going to be
Sure.
useful for them. Um, there's also the traditional, beliefs on like, hey, this is a rugged environment. Farm is rugged. You cannot have these things in there. You need to show them
Right.
that no, actually you can. Right. Also,
Yeah.
expenses are a big deal, right? Like, hey, these machines need maintenance. They are expensive. I don't think I can ever afford it. It's just a belief. It's recently actually that's not true anymore. A robotic cell for any packaging like fruit packaging could be actually cheaper than what you would pay for a human person, so that you could use that person in a better job, right? Um, so that's not true anymore, but it takes time for the traditionally non-technical people to actually learn these things.
Yeah. And I can see, I mean, nobody wants to use your traditional gripper on a robot because you'd squish the strawberries right out in the fields if
Right.
you use some of the traditional grippers. But I also see, and it might just be my naivety, right, or my
Mhm.
inexperience, but I see the need for soft grippers in industries outside of just food packaging and picking and on the farms and stuff. Are there other avenues that you're exploring getting your technology into? I mean, would this be useful in medical device and some of those other more dexterous type environments where it might be assembly, it might be other things where that soft grip is useful?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of avenues that we pursue, and there are a couple others that we haven't pursued yet, but it's gonna be, I think, a key place for soft robotics industry as a whole to go into. Let me explain a
Okay.
few. I think immediate next big item is e-commerce warehousing.
Mm,
The main challenge with e-commerce warehousing is the variety of objects
sure.
that are being handled. So what that means is for every product, do you need a separate gripper, or do you want something that kind of conforms with the shapes of all those different objects? So e-commerce
Yeah.
warehousing is an area where I actually have seen some successful pilots with major
Okay.
e-commerce companies in Massachusetts. Um, that's important. Uh, Another area that we see this happening is medical product handling. Those like pill boxes, pill bottles, and whatnot. Right? They're
Yeah.
kind of still delicate, but they're not food. They require similar hygiene standards that are not they are not there for traditional grippers, but we can provide actually hygiene standards, FDA approvals, and whatnot. Um, Third area where soft robotics is, I think, going to play a big role in is the upcoming humanoid uh, world. So
Sure.
currently, humanoids are extremely rigid, and
Yeah.
you see a lot of them being, especially in tests, they're being hung on to like ceilings and whatnot because if they fall, they break.
Yeah. Right.
Why
They're
doesn't a
fragile.
human break when a human falls? Because we have enough kind of suppression or like conformance to the environment
Yeah.
around us that we kind of roll with it. So I think soft robotics as a whole is going to be a huge win for humanoids when humanoid technology is ready for it. Currently, I think humanoids are where the cars were like when they were like it's just a rigid. Okay, this is working. This is nice.
Yeah.
But I think over time, imagine tactile sensing like you have with your hand. I mean, we are
Yeah.
gonna need soft sensors for the fingers, right?
Absolutely.
At some point, but currently it's not there, and I understand it's not their first goal to get to, but I think it's gonna be a huge deal for humanoids.
I like that.
And search and rescue piece is the last one. Sorry,
Mm,
we don't do much there, but search and rescue, like crawling into tight spaces like snakes and whatnot. So soft body robots are going to be really important to actually go find individuals or going through pipes
yeah.
to actually repair and whatnot. There's research being done on these things, but you need deformable bodies to go into crevices. So it's going to be a huge win if we can get to that level in soft robotics.
Wow. That's fascinating. Please keep me updated on all of this stuff because to me it just that's fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Onder, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about leadership in general. I mean, you led the team at the insurance company. You're now leading a startup. The insurance company you were with was not a small organization. Your startup is a rather small organization. Tell us about the contrast in your leadership style from having a massive team working in a massive multinational organization to leading a startup.
Day and night. Is that enough? Shall we move on?
Might drop. All right, next question.
Well, yeah, in a multinational, multi-billion-dollar company, it is unbelievable how things move slowly. So
Yeah,
things are so slow. All everybody is very busy. And what you need to actually do as a leader in those organizations is help people find their spot within the thousands of people that we have, right?
right.
You need to actually uh, make them realize that yes, they are part of a gigantic system, but they're a valuable part of the system and make them understand. that's going to actually make the company reach their goals or whatever success criteria that it has. So it is completely different. Whereas in a startup company, you only have a handful of people. They already know that they're like a big giant piece of a smaller machine or entity, right? It's there. So the leader, what you want to do is like make sure those 5 people or 6 people, 3 people, whatever that might be, are focused, razor focus on the things they want to kind of deliver. Do it really fast, deliver it, test, fail, and de-risk the situation. Whereas in a big company, if you're in a department, the risks are actually not on you all that much, but you're still an important component of the success. And it changes your conversation with individuals. One might think that culture is a bigger factor in a large group, but years ago I attended I think it was a seminar or a conference somewhere, and the speaker said one thing: you have culture as soon as you have 2 people in a company.
Absolutely.
And then from then on, culture grows. An interesting thing with culture, and I said this many times to other people, culture of a company or a group or a team can be found in sentences like, we do this way, or we never do this. If your individuals or people of your organization are able to say these statements using the first person plural and kind of admitting it, then you have just outlined the culture that you have with the company. You like it or you don't like it, it's a different thing, but people will have some statements about the team, about how they do things. And if they say, we do X, and it's unbelievable that how fast that statement actually grows into other people as soon as you are able to say those things. And I have an interesting personal story about this.
Oh, please share.
Culture is so powerful, and it spreads so powerfully that you don't even actually have a lot of control over it. Here's why. My family is from Turkey. Turkey is traditionally a Muslim country.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tie it back to culture, believe it.
Yeah.
In Turkey, I didn't grow up eating pork because Muslim people don't eat pork. Okay. And I still don't eat it. I don't have a problem if my son does right now. I don't have that much of I didn't tell him not to eat or anything like that. But in one of the conversations that I had, he asked me, like, I didn't eat. And I said, well, we don't eat pork. I didn't mean to say that he shouldn't eat. It was just like, that's how I grew up, and I don't eat pork, right? And then he stopped. He never wants to eat any, like, pork. And then when I asked, like, hey, dude, what? He's like, we don't eat pork. He says the same thing. He says, we don't eat pork. Now, interesting, funny thing is, I told him so many times that soda is bad for you. It has sugar. It's unhealthy. He doesn't stop. He doesn't stop drinking it. He's like, it is because I told him, like, don't do it. It is not healthy. It is not powerful. As soon as I said we don't do it that way, although I did not have the intention to stop him from doing it, he got it, and he doesn't do it anymore. So that's why I said, as soon as a person in the team says, we don't do this to our customers, then it's an unbelievable power. Or like, hey, we don't stop until we find the answer to an analytical problem in this team. It spreads. If you tell them, like, hey, you shouldn't stop. You need to find the answer. It's not good to stop in the middle. Fine. It's like, as an analytics team manager, I saw that. As a father, I felt it in a company. It's just so powerful to be able to say, we do this or we do not that. That's the culture, in my opinion.
I love it. And we talk a lot on this show I talk with guests about culture at its most simplistic being the alignment of values between an organization and its employees, right?
Right.
And I think you just illustrated that because those are intrinsic values, right? You said,
Mhm.
we don't eat pork, and your son internalized those values, right? When you said you shouldn't drink soda, it wasn't a value to you. It was a cautionary tale, right? So
Right.
your value is we don't eat pork. You weren't trying to
Mhm.
impart that value, but your son internalized it.
Right.
When it came to the caution of drinking soda, which isn't a value, he didn't align with that, right? And so I think that you just proved what we've been saying on this podcast, that it
Right.
truly is that alignment of values at its most simplistic form. What do you think about that?
I totally agree because statement. So the one statement being a value, I think, is determined by its connection to the character or the presence of an individual, right?
Yeah.
Is that your value or is that something that you say?
Right.
Uh, right. As long as you're able to say that I am this person, we are this group, then it
Yep.
becomes a value that you kind of follow, and then there may be people that are not aligned with it, which is fine. They may actually find themselves out group, and it may
Yeah.
actually kind of create tension. But in most cases, when you have a strong valuable statement, a value statement, it actually kind of penetrates into other people, and then they take pride in being a part of it.
Yeah.
That's a key thing. And when it is challenged, it is the leader's responsibility to become vulnerable in
Absolutely.
accepting the challenge. So there's also another piece. Like if someone thinks that the thing that you're saying is not meaningful, and then
Yes.
it's your point where you actually shut up and then listen and then say like, okay, what makes you say that? Why do you feel
Yes.
that way? Oh, maybe I
Tell me
misspoke,
more.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
give me more. So the vulnerability is, I think Brené Brown says it really well
Yeah.
in her book. It is not weakness. It is more like putting yourself out there
Absolutely.
without knowing what's going to come out of it. That conversation. Like
Yes.
most of us, and I have done this many times. You avoid that conversation because you don't know where it's
Yeah.
going to go,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it becomes like, okay, the communication is gone. I'm sorry, I'm just spreading a lot, but basically what I'm trying
Oh,
to say
this is
is
great.
you build a culture, people actually talk to you, even though you don't have answers, having the courage to go out there and talk despite
Yeah.
not knowing where it's going to go is what you should be doing. And I
Yeah.
tried it on. It worked great for me
Yeah.
as a leader. So,
No, so one of my personal uh, beliefs, and I'm not alone in this belief, but one of my personal beliefs is that a leader's job is to recognize their own strengths and weaknesses and then hire a team around them that is smarter than they are, right? They're not, their job is to not be the smartest person in the room. Their job is to hire people smarter than they are. And if
right,
they're truly the smartest person in the room, it's time to clear the room and refill it, right?
right.
Um, how have you been able to do that in the various size organizations? I mean, multi-billion, multinational, small startup. Has it proven to be more of a challenge at the startup level, or at the larger organization level?
Yeah, I think startup level it was a challenge because there are a lot of dynamics on like funding. So being able to find people, actually
Sure.
finding people without having money is actually tough, right? So it's like it's very challenging.
Sure.
But even like it doesn't have to be like finding people who are kind of working for you for money, but even like interns and whatnot. You
Yeah.
want the person to actually something that is uh, bring something that you cannot do better than themselves, like them.
Yeah.
Like even like I hire interns, right, for like short terms of the unpaid experience things for them. But I kind of teach them like I am getting you in this place because I know you're going to add something that I could not add into this organization, and it's my
Yeah.
job to actually figure that out and then help you bring that out of you, right?
Yeah.
So there in the big organization, we had performance criteria, we had annual check-ins, we had even rating systems, we had annual conversations, we had biannual conversations. So there's actually a lot more structure around it. And then when a person is actually not being the person that you need them to be, you tell them actually, even if you don't have the courage to go out there to have the weekly conversation, which I actually was. I valued the weekly one-on-ones a lot as a leader.
Yeah.
But even if a manager did not do those, they had to do at least twice a year the performance conversation. And
Yeah.
in those conversations, it's like direct. You can tell them what you need to do. I think a leader's job, and others like a lot of people define leader's job. I actually don't like doing that, but I did it right now. Is actually not having to have those structured check-in meetings, in my opinion. I actually never liked those check-in meetings when there was something said that was a surprise to either party.
Yes.
Like I said, when we have the check-in meeting, we are gonna do that for like we need to check the box. We had this meeting, but nothing I told you today should have been a surprise, and I shouldn't have heard anything from you that's a surprise to me. So we should have been communicating anyway and already fixed the issues.
Yeah.
Or the issue must have been like this past couple of days of that meeting, right? It's just like that's why most of my official check-in dates were like repeating what we have been talking anyway, and then it's just talking about like future and how we can get better. So I think it's another thing that a leader, maybe this is a manager role, not necessarily a leader, but as a manager, you should actually have those conversations so that there's no surprises.
Yeah. And another big part of leadership is being able to bring aspects of your life and your journey in that vulnerable vein to your leadership journey, right? You might be, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to wager that in the episodes that I've had so far, you're the first like judo practicing human that I've had on here. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Please don't send me an email or a message on social media if I'm wrong. But you've done amazing things in martial and performing arts, judo, acting, directing. How have those experiences shaped who you are as a leader and entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think acting was the biggest kind of impact on my professional life because in acting you build this skill to measure the audience's interest and level of involvement in what you're saying, even without paying a lot of attention, or even when you're paying attention to what you're going to say, you're going to do. You actually have this unspoken conversation with the audience, and you build that skill set on like, okay, are they interested? Am I losing them? Are they like excited now? Are they not? Are they finding this funny or not? You have that, and that actually was a huge thing for me because at work you always talk to people. You always like in a room, with an audience, and you're saying things, and then being able to measure it is a phenomenal skill. Second piece is that kind of builds you. It's basically practice on like when do you actually bring attention on you, or what are the things that you should be doing to make people listen to you or get convinced by you. So you have a lot of practice on stage doing that, and when you bring it to work, it is actually very powerful. Being able to just pause, change your tone, and not becoming monotone in like work presentations, in sales pitches, and in my startup life, in investment pitches. I see a huge benefit of being able to actually look the people in the eye and then
Yeah.
just show my whole body and all presence and then present something, I feel very comfortable. And I did coach others on that one too.
Wow.
One funny story. One of my managers, I'm a talker, sorry. One of my
Don't
managers
apologize.
at Liberty Mutual, oh God, I said the name, major insurance company. Uh, we had a big gathering, like I think annual, one of those annual meetings where hundreds of people kind of gathered in one of the hotel conference areas.
Yeah.
And my manager was presenting with another SVP. My manager was like 5'9", maybe, and the other SVP was like 6'4", 6'3". I don't remember. He's taller and he's bigger, and they're both like leaders of a larger organization, kind of equal leaders type of thing.
Yeah.
And I realized my manager was kind of sitting right next to the other and then talking. When you're next to a larger thing, you look smaller, right? It's just, even though you're like a normal sized human, if you're kind of next to like a tall and bigger person, you look smaller, and then it kind of makes you less important on stage. It is something that as a director, I would always, like, if there's a monologue that a person had on the stage, I would actually make the person walk away from the crowd, kind of separate themselves out so that the attention would be on them, the importance would be there. And I said to my manager, I said, I apologize for but I have to tell you, can you next time, when I say you should actually walk away from him, and then speak there, because that is actually making you look smaller on the stage and making the words that you say less important than what he said. It's just the fact. He loved it. And that was just purely from my acting background and directing background.
That's great. So, Onder, if they were to ever do a Knight Rider stage version, would you put in for the role of Michael?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could really put in for the role of Kit.
Just be the voice of Kit? That would be amazing.
I knew that, like a little red light kind of going,
I loved that show. Yeah. That was great. It was a great show. So another thing we talked about in your intro is your wife. She sounds like a brilliant woman. How has she supported and helped you in this entrepreneurship journey, right? Going and doing the things that you're doing on this pathway.
Yeah, she's amazing. First and foremost, kind of she put up with me, so that's a big help. That she's like there still, so that's wonderful. Yeah, this was a big jump, obviously, because from a secure job and good paying job, you're just basically saying that no, I'm gonna stop it. I'm gonna go into a dark unknown, and
yes,
I call it a leap of faith. It's an unknown thing. Yep. You go in there, and then she was hesitant. I'll be honest, she wasn't like, oh yeah, you should be doing it or whatnot. And she was like, you sure? What do you think? And at the end of the day, I told her why I needed to do this, because I needed myself, what is it called, accomplishment, my own presence to build something of my own, and I felt the huge need of it, and I've talked about it for probably 3 years with her before it wasn't an easy decision, not easy, and I finally pulled the plug and pulled the trigger, I should say, not pulled the trigger, and then she was like, yeah, I think you should be doing it. Otherwise, it's going to bother you for the rest of your life. I don't want that to happen to you. So, and I felt that way too. If I didn't do it, I would be miserable for the rest of my life, of not doing it. So, yeah, she definitely understood me on that one, and huge help. Obviously now, and even before this, I did a day job, and then this started when day job was happening.
Yeah.
Short before it, so I had to be away at night, kind of working on this thing to build it up, and she had to deal with the kids, deal with the house by herself. So I cannot thank enough uh, for that.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing it up in this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife provided me the same luxury, right? At the beginning of 22, I started my company. Been some major highs, major lows, but you know, she's working full time, but yet she she's bringing in the lion's share of the revenue for the family.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, because I'm doing what I'm doing in the industry I'm doing it in, I still have to travel. I'm still gone, and so she's doing the same and picking up a lot of slack that I could be helping with in the raising of the kids, in this, that, and the other things, and
Right.
so I know from personal experience, right, that she's a big part of my success.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see somebody who includes their spouse in their bio, right, that they send me to write the intro, that means something, right? And so to be able to recognize and honor and celebrate that support and that partnership, I think is a big deal. So yes, you're very welcome. What's some advice, Onder, that you would give people who want to be entrepreneurs, that want to get into the world of robotics or manufacturing or entrepreneurship as a whole?
Yeah. Um, Maybe I should be bold in giving advice to people, but I'm going to spin it this way. I'm going to say, let me share with you what are the great things that I feel but for doing this. And then I'm guessing they all feel the same things and it could be a good idea for them. I still don't feel like I can give advice, but I can share the things that I have, if that
Perfect.
helps. Um, One thing that I
Absolutely.
noticed,
This is why I love having you as a guest.
thank you. It is absolutely liberating to actually become an entrepreneur. You have this new level of like confidence in yourself. Uh, I love it. I love every second of being on the hook for whatever I do, big way. So I'm on the hook. I'm on the spot. It is just,
Yeah.
it is whatever I do is going to have a huge impact on the things. Whatever I don't, it's going to have a huge impact. Like I said, I'm on the hook. I think that's the term, and I love every second of it, and it's a very enjoyable thing for me.
Yeah.
Um, Another piece is it is easy to have ideas on what needs to be done, but the most difficult thing is executing on those ideas. So I think that's the main gap
Yeah.
in people's minds. Like, I have a lot of ideas. Well, it's great if you could just pick one of them and then start today. You would have done a lot more. So that's when
Yeah.
I learned, when I actually took this, I said, "Oh my God, it makes a huge difference to actually think about something versus kind of rolling the sleeves and doing the thing." Right
Yeah.
then, I really enjoyed it and then saw the benefits of it, and I could probably advise on like pick one of those ideas. It's not like you cannot go to the other ideas later. It
Yeah.
is, if anything, it is going to be good to know that that idea was a crappy one and it failed, than actually living it in your brain as a great idea. It's like either it's going to work or not work, but you're going to need the answer today, right? It's just
Yes.
so. So that's the key thing that I learned. And the third one is I actually was able to manage my time better to do with family, uh, because it's my own company on thing. I'm on the hook. I can plan my day better. I can be there for
Yeah.
my son when I like midday. If I need to go see one of his like I don't know shows or something like that, it was very easy for me.
Yeah.
I didn't need to get ask permission. I can actually arrange my meetings. I can arrange customers and whatnot. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
It is great. So I'm thinking that the return on investment is going to be big. I haven't seen it yet, like you said, early startup, but I'm hopeful that great things are going to happen because I'm doing this.
That's awesome. I love that. And I feel that very deep in my own soul, right? The reasons that you just mentioned are very similar to my reasons as well, and my things. So I appreciate that. Onder, last question: what haven't I asked you? What do you want to share with the audience that I may not have asked you in the course of our conversation?
I think first of all, this was awesome. I really enjoyed every second of it. I think this was a very kind of laid back, easy conversation to have, and it always feels good to
Yeah,
actually share your opinion and feelings with people. I had another
yeah,
conversation before this, and someone wanted me to look at their resume, and I said I will never say no to like teaching someone something, right? And this one is also like I will never say no to people ask me about my life and my experiences.
yeah.
One thing maybe I can add to all the things that uh, you asked is having hobbies on the side helps me a lot, clears my
Mm,
mind. Like
yeah.
you did kind of touch on it, like the acting and the judo. I don't do acting anymore, but judo is a big thing. Because of my injury, my leg is hurt. I cannot do it right now, but I always kind of try to fill my evenings or my kind of day with other things. It
Yeah,
kind of is like everybody has a different way of meditating, and I think
absolutely.
finding a way to kind of clear the brain out is very helpful. Uh, so maybe I could say this in the advice section, but kind of my hobbies are kind of I play sports and whatnot. I play chess, and I realize
Awesome.
when I do those things for some time, I'm kind of lost in this unknown place, this other or not known place, but not in the daily job, daily work stresses. It kind of
Yes,
clears, and then when I get back to work, I actually have a clearer mind to actually work on the problems. So
absolutely.
maybe that's what it is. So what do you ask? Hobbies. So it's judo. It's a little bit of soccer, chess. I love
All
actually
right.
playing chess on my phone. So that's there. And in the summer, I do. I like fishing. It's
Okay.
amazing actually to look at the water. Even if I don't catch anything, I love like being in the nature and then looking at the water and then seeing the
Yeah,
waves. So nice.
it's
And in
beautiful.
the winter,
Yeah.
I like skiing. This year I
Okay.
couldn't because of injury, but
Yeah.
I love skiing. So those
I
are
love
the
it.
things that I can add.
I love it. Onder, thank you so much for being on, my friend. This was, like you said, it was just a great conversation. And here we are 52 minutes into it. And I couldn't tell you that it was that long, right? It just was very natural and very relaxed and enjoyable. So thank you very much for being on. Thank you for sharing your story. Appreciate it. Folks, that's a wrap on another fantastic episode of the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. Our guest, Onder Ondemir, I've got to thank you again for joining and sharing your story, the story of Ubiros and the revolutionary soft gripper technology. Nobody wants squished strawberries. That's if you need a marketing slogan, use that. It's clear that Ubiros is not just about innovation in hardware; it's about driving a shift in farming and manufacturing towards more efficient, safe, and sustainable practices. If you're as inspired by this conversation as I was, make sure to visit our website at manufacturingculturepodcast.com. There you'll find more episodes, content, blogs, etc. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and yes, Snapchat to stay up to date with the latest in manufacturing and culture. Now, folks, I have a small favor to ask of you. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends, your colleagues, your grandmother, anyone that you think would benefit from the insights that you heard today. And don't forget to rate and review the show on whatever platform that you listen or watch us on. Because it rockets us up the charts, it makes us more found by other people, and that helps us bring more content straight to your eyes and ears. So folks, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing those boundaries and what's possible in manufacturing. Have a great day and keep making things. Bye.